our compulsion. The world has moved to 5th and 6th generation Air Force, especially the Air Force, where they have moved to 5th and 6th generation fighters, sir. So our effort, my point is that our effort on R&D must be focused on, must be speeded up at a much higher pace than it has ever been. And this is what I would like to I would like to request our Honorable Finance Minister that this should be our focus if we really want to become Atmanirbhar. Sir, Arun Mishra in his article today, in today's Indian Express, has said, I would like to quote that, the de-Russification of the armed forces and the genuine Indianization of India's defense technological and industrial base is necessary. We need to de-Russify ourselves. We cannot depend on Russia all the time. And therefore we have to become Atmanirbhar. Sachi Atmanirbharta isi mein hogi, sir. Sir, when the government learns to listen, when the situation demands it, and when the opposition learns to appreciate when the situation demands it, democracy can move forward more resolutely and more strongly. So just as my colleague, Mr. Manoj Jha, he made a comment saying that, he quoted something saying that I will not make any comment on it. I would also like to quote a Turkish proverb. The forest was shrinking, but the trees kept voting for the axe. For the axe was clever and convinced the trees that because his handle was made of wood, he was one of them. So, sir, I wouldn't like to make any more comment on this. At the end, I will only like to say, ma'am, that Elon Musk had dreamed a dream. He had dreamed a dream that he would like to make travel into space more affordable for people. And that became his greatest selling point, to the extent that he became the world's richest man at one point of time. Ma'am, our greatest selling point ought to be our Atmanirbharta. Sorry to say, we have still not been able to make that our selling point the way it should be. Because marketing the government's achievements is not our aim. Our aim is to benefit the poor, the middle class, and to remove the economic disparity that is there in our nation. Thank you, sir.
Shri K. Ravindra Kumar.
Thank you, sir, for this opportunity for speaking on appropriation bills regarding supplementary demands for grants 21-22 and excess expenditure during 18-19. By taking up these two bills for discussion and passing this August House is meeting an important constitutional provision. The provision stipulates that not even single rupee can be spent by the government of the day without the approval of the Parliament. These provisions and processes also ensure that there is no misappropriation of monies sanctioned by the Parliament for various items of specific expenditure. Funds sanctioned for ensuring the health of the people cannot be spent on building guest houses. If it is done, it amounts to misappropriation and serious misuse of sanctioned funds besides blatant violation of the constitutional provisions and sanctity of the legislative approvals duly accorded. The Parliament and other legislatures of the states are mandated with the responsibilities of preventing such misuse of monies collected from the people. But unfortunately, this kind of misuse of funds has become an order of the day and routine in case of present Andhra Pradesh government. There is no sanctity for budgeting, expenditure norms and accounting the expenditure transparency in Andhra Pradesh. This is all because of serious financial indiscipline in the state. The finances of Andhra Pradesh have been converted into big black hole by the present government in my state. Whatever the central government gives through the state further to the approval of the Parliament whatever the people of the state are paying in the form of the various taxes is vanishing into this black hole. These are the total lack of accountability and transparency in the spending by the state government. All this because of the total collapse of financial discipline on the part of the Andhra Pradesh government. These are not, sir, these are not my words. Two respectable honorable ministers of the state for finance of the central government have gone on record very recently pointing out lack of financial discipline and gross mismanagement of finance in Andhra Pradesh. Minister of State for Finance, Shri Gavtker, during his recent visit to Vijayawada, has stated in public that there is no financial discipline in Andhra Pradesh. This was further elaborated by another Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Shri Pankaj Chaudhary, in his recent letter dated 11th of this month to one of my colleagues in the Lok Sabha. In this letter, the Honorable Minister Chaudhary pointed out some irregularities committed by the Andhra Pradesh government with a few examples. He revealed that for the financial year 1920, so the state government has wrongly classified 4,378 crore as capital expenditure. This is effect means that expenditure on other items was shown as capital expenditure. I raise this point because to encourage capital expenditure, central government encourages states through borrowing and other means. By inflating capital expenditure through wrong classification, deliberately Andhra Pradesh government is widening the window for borrowings. This is totally unjustified as it affects the future of the people on the state of the burden mounting loans.
You sit down.
In fact, this has become the modus operandi of Andhra Pradesh government, borrowing every day for every source by misleading the central government with wrong report of expenditure. The state government is borrowing in a deceitful manner. It is cheating the people of the state and the center as well. There is yet another equal serious dimension to the state financial mismanagement by the Andhra Pradesh government. Minister of Finance Pankaj Chaudhary in his letter also revealed that the state government has reported absent spends as expenditure incurred on disaster relief and rehabilitation during 1920 and spent those funds for next year. Money is given by the Center for Disaster Relief or transferred to personal accounts of projects, authorities, and were spent for non-relief purposes by diverting disaster relief funds. This is a clear indication of financial disaster in Andhra Pradesh which needs to be checked forthwith. Concerned over this disastrous financial management in the state, Minister of State for Finance Pankaj Chaudhary in his letter has highlighted the need for the government of Andhra Pradesh to take correct measures. I would like to assure this August House that the state government will certainly not take up collective measures required. On the other hand, it will continue with its financial misdeeds. It is for the central government to ensure financial indiscipline on the part of Andhra Pradesh government. I urge the centre to do this forthwith. In the last revelation, Andhra Pradesh government has also recently misused 1,798 crore released by the centre under National Health Mission and COVID package 2 contrary to the directions of the centre to transfer these funds as a single nodal account. The state government has used these funds for other items. As a result, the health of the people of the state has been put to great risk through misuse of funds sanctioned by their health. This is not enough for the centre to step in forthwith and safeguard the interest of the people of Andhra Pradesh. Centre should do this before it's beyond repair. As per the COG, revenue deficit for 1920 was a huge of 1486% of the estimate. For the current financial year, it was 40,829 crore for the 7-month period of April to October 2021. As against the budget provisions, only 5,000 crore planned for full financial year. It reveals an excess expenditure of 816%. The Principal Accountant General, a letter dated 4/5/2021, to the state government objected withdrawal of 41,043 rupees, bypassing the treasury unit violations. These highlights use unauthorized diversion of funds. The state government has also withdrawal recently 7,000 crores from panchayati bodies for this purpose.
Nothing to do with the,
Sir?
our appropriate.
And in a letter by the Financial Department, the Department of Expenditure, dated 30th 6 June 2021, the borrowing space of the state for any given year is calculated on the basis of information submitted by the state. Once the COG audited state financial accounts are available, the adjustment on account of overborrowing by the state arises due to deviation in the information given by the state, and information published in the state finance accounts is carried out. Accordingly, in the instant case, repayments and other borrowings was considered based on the information provided by the state of Andhra Pradesh via its letter dated 22/4/2021. An amount of rupees 17,923 was adjusted with the available borrowing space of Andhra Pradesh on account of overborrowing by state during earlier years. Sir, the state financial affairs in Andhra Pradesh is very serious. The state government should be prevented from eroding the sanctity of legislative authorization of expenditure and appropriation of the funds done by both the parliament and the state legislature. A $5 trillion economy of India cannot be built on financial misappropriation and willful wrong reporting as is being done by Andhra Pradesh government. This is the time necessary intervention by the center before it goes beyond repair. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Srimati Priyanka Chaturvedi.
Before time I complete.
Thank you so much, Honorable Sir. So firstly, to get this out of the way, the appropriation number 2 Bill 2022 and number 3 Bill 2022, I stand to oppose it. Now that I have that out of the way, sir, एक कवि धूमिल हैं, उनकी दो पंक्तियों से शुरू करना चाहूंगी। लोहे का स्वाद लोहार से मत पूछो, उस घोड़े से पूछो जिसके मुंह में लगाम है। सर, जिस तरीके से जो बजट आए जा रहे हैं उस पे विकास को लगाम लगा दिया है, प्रजातंत्र को लगाम लगा चुके हैं सरकार ने, बजट के अलावा संविधान का लगाम लगाया हुआ है, रोजगार पे लगाम लगाया हुआ है। तो मैं कुछ हेडलाइंस पढ़ना चाहती हूं पिछले 2 महीने से, उसी से समझ में आ जाएगा कि क्या स्वाद है लोहे का। EPFO interest rate slashed to 8.1%, lowest in 4 decades. MSME suffers most during COVID lockdown. Public sector banks have MSME NPA of rupees 1,37,087 crores. Rupee sinks 109 paise worst in Asia. ये मैं अपना मन के नहीं बोल रही हूँ, मैं तो बस हेडलाइन पढ़ रही हूँ। Industrial growth fell to 10-month low at 0.4% in December. Income of poorest fifth plunged 53% in 5 years. Those at the top surged by over 40%. Amid bilateral chill, India-China trade marks record surge in 2021. 60% saw income halve in 2 years of pandemic. Joblessness rate in double digits between April to June 2021. Joblessness rate in youth jumped to 26% in financial year 2022 quarter 1. Women 31% worse off than men at 24%. States showing high unemployment rate. जम्मू एंड कश्मीर की बहुत बात होती है, उनके साथ किस तरीके का दुर्व्यवहार हो रहा है। लगाम नफरत पे लगानी चाहिए, पर लगाम आपने रोजगार पे लगाए हुए हैं। जम्मू एंड कश्मीर at 46.3%, sir. Madhya Pradesh at 31.4%, sir. Uttarakhand at 36.6%, sir. Uttar Pradesh at 24.7%, sir. ये पिछले 2 महीने के हेडलाइंस हैं, उसी से आपको समझ में आ जाएगा अप्रोप्रिएशन है, मिस अप्रोप्रिएशन है, क्या है। मैं इस पे ज्यादा नहीं जाना चाहूंगी। मैं आपको सब दे दूंगी, सोर्स के साथ दे दूंगी, आप टेंशन मत लीजिएगा। शायद आप अखबार नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं आजकल। I will give you all the sources, sir.
Just a minute. Miss up. Yes, yes. इसको मैं चेक करा लूँ। नहीं प्लीज sit down. नहीं प्लीज आप दिया जी, अगर ऐसा होगा तो हम चेक करा लें। अजय उसे करा लें।
सर मैं सब ऑथेंटिकेट कर दूंगी। NSO के सर्वे है सर, NSO का सर्वे, उसको भी डिनाई कर देंगे।
तो मैं चेक करा एग्जाम, अगर कुछ अनपार्लियामेंटली होगा तो उसको चेक करा लेते हैं। प्लीज यू कैन।
आधे से ज्यादा समय झूठ बोलते रहते हो, तो ऑथेंटिकेट हम करें।
प्लीज सब्जेक्ट पर बोलिए, प्लीज आप प्लीज। हाँ प्लीज। Please you continue. माननीय मंत्री जी. नहीं, please. माननीय
It's
मंत्री.
okay. Ma'am also gets distracted many times.
मंत्री
Yes.
जी.
Sir, I just want to be sure.
Please, you. Please, मंत्री. You said.
I just want to be sure if I've heard this right. It is the appropriation bill which has come here. And in its reference, if I've heard right, honorable member, misappropriation is an inappropriate word to use. If it was used for this, I'd like to draw her attention, honorable member's attention, and if it was used in this context, an appropriation bill comes for discussion and all of us do discuss it. But if that word misappropriation is used in the context of appropriation bill, I'm sorry, it's right, it's not wrong to use it here, because particularly in terms of the appropriation bill which has come in terms of the excess demand for grants, is based on the PAC's recommendation. And we are taking the PAC's recommendation and therefore coming up with an appropriation bill for the excess demand for grants. So word misappropriation.
ठीक है, उसको एग्जामिन करेगा, अगर होगा तो उसको निकाल दिया जाए कार्रवाई से.
बस सर, मुझे नहीं पता था misappropriation एक unparliamentary word है. हो सकता है आप आ गया हो सकता है. No, did I say it's in that context? I'm sorry, ma'am. I did not say it in that context.
You continue.
I am very surprised. मैं अगली बार कहूँगी miscalculation है तो उस पर भी unparliamentary language हो जाएगा. तो विपक्ष किस बात के लिए हम?
No.
अगर नहीं आप
अगर कुछ भी अनपार्लियामेंट्री होगा तो उसको कार्रवाई से निकाल दिए. अगर है अनपार्लियामेंट्री है तो उसको कार्रवाई से निकाल दिए. Please you continue now.
आपका मुंह में anti-constitution is wrong. हाँ लगाओ रहे आप हमारे मुंह में ही अब.
Sir, I asked a question.
मंत्री जी.
If it was used in the context of appropriation bill, which has come in response to the PACs, I asked a question. I appreciate if the honorable member can just explain if she had used it in the context of the appropriation bill, which is in response to the PAC. And if it's not used in that context, I have no answers to give, I have no questions to ask, well within the rights of the opposition party to criticize the government. But to use the word misappropriation in the context of an appropriation bill, is it right or wrong? Was it used in that context or not, is what I've asked for.
Please.
Yeah. Without any further interruption.
Yeah.
And I will answer to you. I will answer. Yes. Misappropriation of the way policies are handled in this country was right and pretty obvious by all the headlines I have shared. And I don't think it is unparliamentary and I don't think it is so objectionable for anyone to take objection to the fact. Now, sir, I don't want to waste my time, nor would I want to waste Honourable Minister's time. She has very important things to do. Wow, sir, what is this?
Where is the rule book?
Please.
Where is the rule book?
A member shall not read any
Book, newspaper or letter except in, can I finish? Please come on. Please, except
I am allowing. No,
this is not
please, Jaji, madam को allow किया. I have a chair and allow किया. Please, Jaji, no. You can't interrupt. Please.
No, shall not read.
This chair. I have. मैंने allow किया हमको. Please. मैंने पढ़ सकते हैं क्यों नहीं? Please.
Yeah. So shall not read any book, newspaper or letter except in connection with the business of the council. And what is being mentioned here has nothing to do with the bill that is being discussed. That is the business of the house at this point of time.
ठीक है, अगर कोई एग्जामिन करा लेंगे उसको, अगर कुछ भी गलत होगा तो कार्रवाई से निकाल दिया जाएगा. Please you continue. Please you continue.
Point of disorder.
Sir, can I say?
Please keep
Can I
it.
say
Point
this?
of disorder.
Please.
Can I say something, sir? This disorderly conduct only goes to prove my point and all the headlines that I have quoted. And I rest my case with that, sir. Now, with regards to GST compensation to the states, there was a question answer that was discussed 2 days ago, where it was quite obvious with the way GST refunds are sent back to the states, there is a delay. Nobody is questioning the formula that has been arrived by a GST council. What we are questioning is your authority of disposal to disperse the GST refunds to the state. And Maharashtra has been repeatedly asking for its rightful due in the GST. And even now, the GST dues, as per the report that was presented on the floor of this House, is 11,563 crores, which we again dispute. There's above 22,000 crores which is due to the state of Maharashtra. I wouldn't want to go back to what other members have already spoken, but it becomes important that I raise this issue, and I raise this issue with concern as a nationalist and as much a nationalist as the other side claims to be. There has been a huge cut in the defense budget for 22-23. At a time when we are seeing a conflict rise all of a sudden between Russia and Ukraine, and disregarding the rule-based order. At this particular point in time, we are surrounded by a neighbor who does not believe in a rule-based order. And our defense budget should be working to ensure that we provide our army and our armed forces with all kinds of appropriate equipment needed for their safety and safeguarding our nation. It is unfortunate to see that there has been a cut. What really surprises me, that a party which continues to say Atmanirbhar Bharat, and we all support Atmanirbhar Bharat, we would want to see an Atmanirbhar Bharat, has a defense research spending of 0.088% in 2016-17 and 0.083% in 2020-21. And it should be a cause for worry for all of us, sir. Rising wholesale inflation. Wholesale price index rose to 13.11% year-on-year in February from 12.96% in January. It was 4.83% in February 2021. The WPI continues to be in double digits for the 11th consecutive month. And these double-digit figures should be alarming for us, because it would lead to high prices that we are already burdened under. Consumer Price Index, I won't call it CPI. Yeah, I won't call it CPI. Consumer Price Index spiked to an 8-month high of 6.07%. Retail inflation rose 6.38% for rural consumers, whereas food inflation climbed by 5.85%. So, and I will continue to stick to India, not what is happening in the rest of the world, because it is the Indians at the end of the day who are suffering the consequences. I had tried to raise this in the zero hour, sir, but it wasn't permitted, but I must raise this now. Depreciating value of Indian rupee at 17.5% in the last year. It has been slumped down by over 17% in the last 5 years. It should be a cause for worry. The most important part, sir, which I think it should be a cause for concern, which I read out in the headline, and I'm sure he wouldn't ask me for source now.
Please address this.
Interest rates of EPFO have been slashed to 8.1%, lowest in 40 years. But at the same time, senior citizens who are non-government employees depend on these interest rate savings once they retire. They are facing a hard time with high inflation and low interest rates in their savings. Interest rates in small savings schemes such as Public Provident Fund, Senior Citizen Savings Scheme, National Savings Certificate have all been falling. Even the bank fixed deposit has fallen. Last but not the least, sir, I wouldn't want to touch on unemployment because it's quite a touchy topic and they ask for sources, but I must tell you the sources are NSO survey which was released just recently. I hope they don't disregard that. Now to women and children. The budget, unfortunately, did not cater to children and women either. In fact, the proportion of allocation of funds for children is the lowest in the last 10 years. It's a cause of shame. Shame. In financial year 2019-20, even for the ICDS, what was allotted has been reduced. Allocations for Poshan Abhiyan decreased by 82%, from 3,400 crores to 600 crores during the same time period. So I'll take just one last minute before I end this. Now, I just want to remind my dear friends in the treasury benches, sir, just one last minute. One last minute because it's about women.
Very important point.
BJP's manifesto in 2004, sir, 1 minute, sir, 1 minute. Kitna disruption hua mere beech mein?
Please you conclude.
2014 and 19 said, 2019 ka quote kar rahi hu, Women's welfare and development will be accorded a high priority at all levels within the government, and the BJP is committed to 33% reservation parliament and state assemblies through a constitutional amendment. चलिए आप reservation नहीं दे रहे हैं, आप welfare schemes पर तो ध्यान दे लीजिए, वो भी नहीं हो रहा है. 2014 में we promised the women voters that if the BJP forms a government at the center, it will pass the women's reservation bill. चलिए वो भी फिर से same चीज है जो कांग्रेस led UPA नहीं कर पाया. Sir, एक minute. Despite introduction of the legislation for representation of women in 96, 98, 99 and 2006, it continues to languish and no further action has been taken. So considering that we are 50% of India's population, not just reservation, even the welfare schemes should be adequately compensated to the women of this country. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Shri Mahesh Poddar ji.
धन्यवाद उपसभापति महोदय. महोदय, मैं अप्रोप्रिएशन बिल नंबर 2 और 3 जो आज सदन के समक्ष उपलब्ध है 2022 का समर्थन करता हूं. महोदय, ये दोनों बिल जो पहले के जो प्रावधान किए गए थे बजट में उससे अधिक कुछ खर्च हुए हैं और उसको बढ़ करके जो अब हो गया है, जो बिल नंबर 3 जो है 1,58,356 करोड़ और विभिन्न मदों में मात्र 10 लाख के करीब ये जो खर्च हो गया है, इसकी अनुमति के लिए इस सदन के समक्ष उपलब्ध है. बिल नंबर 2 5,204 करोड़ 57,35,163 रुपये जो 18-19 के बजट से संबंधित है उसके लिए उपस्थित है. महोदय, अभी हमारे साथी कॉमरेड विनय विश्वम जी पूछ रहे थे कि किस चीज़ में खर्च हुए अधिक, तो मैं देख रहा था, मुझे भी उत्सुकता हुई. उनकी बात सही है कि हम किन चीज़ों पे ये एक्स्ट्रा खर्च कर रहे हैं, तो शायद उन्होंने देखा नहीं होगा कि जो हमारा अप्रोप्रिएशन बिल नंबर 2 है उसमें जो खर्च किया गया है वो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रेलवेज के लिए किया गया और एक छोटी सी रकम मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ हाउसिंग एंड अर्बन अफेयर्स के लिए की गई है. और जब जिसमें 1,58,000 का जो रकम है उसमें जो अधिक खर्च किए गए हैं वो मुझे खुशी बताते हुए कि काफ़ी बड़ी मात्रा में करीब 1,100 करोड़ ट्रांसफर टू द स्टेट्स राज्यों को देने के लिए अधिक खर्च किए गए हैं, डिफेंस के लिए अधिक खर्च किए गए हैं और रेलवे के लिए अधिक खर्च किए गए हैं. तो महोदय, ऐसा नहीं है जो भावना यहाँ पे व्यक्त की गई कि शायद लगता है ऐसा कि कोई फिजूल खर्ची की जा रही हो, ऐसी कोई भावना नहीं है. और माननीय मंत्री जी ने बताया भी कि ये पीएससी वगैरह की सारी स्क्रूटनी के बाद में ये प्रस्ताव आपके समक्ष आया है, जो कि प्रायः होता आया है और एक सरकार की और संविधान की बाध्यता है जिसके तहत हम यहाँ पे इस पर चर्चा कर रहे हैं. महोदय, अभी हम लोगों ने पिछले 1-2 बजट में देखा है और हम सब ने देखा है, जब ये सरकार आयुष्मान योजना की प्रस्ताव लेके आई थी बजट में, बजट भाषण में, यदि मैं सही बोल रहा हूं तो माननीय जेटली जी थे उस समय, तो विपक्ष ने बड़े जोर से ये प्रश्न उठाया था कि ये पैसा कहां से आएगा. चिंता वाजिब थी. उन्होंने कहा था कि पैसे की चिंता छोड़ दीजिए, पैसे का भी हम प्रावधान कर रहे हैं. और इस योजना को लागू करने के लिए उन्होंने सारे राज्यों से अपील किया था कि सारे राज्य इसमें सहयोग करें, क्योंकि ये गरीबों के लिए, पिछड़ों के लिए, वंचितों के लिए ये योजना है जो कि गरीबी के कारण अपना इलाज नहीं करा सकते. और उन्होंने ये कहा था कि हम इसके लिए बजट में कभी पैसे की कमी नहीं होने देंगे, और ऐसा हुआ भी. महोदय, जब मनरेगा के लिए बात हुई बजट में तो कहा गया